and within like 5 minutes, there's sweat like just pouring. Like
Yeah, I mean,
I'm
my
like
sunglasses, I'd bend down and they would just basically pool in
with
there.
sweat.
Like, it
Yeah,
was
it's just kind of gross.
yeah.
Well, it's definitely been more than a hot minute. Been a lot of hot minutes.
Yeah.
It's been insane. We have been through a heat wave, which I think just about everyone probably watching, certainly in North America, has been experiencing.
Yeah.
It has been insanely hot, and
So we've been getting up to about, well, the high was supposed to be about 32, which is what it got to, but with the humidity and everything else, it was more like 33, 34.
yeah,
So,
I know yesterday at one point my phone indicated 33, but it didn't count the humidity. The 2 days ago, the humidity here officially was 94%.
yeah.
Which is crazy.
And actually, to give an idea, because it has a little bit of an impact on our videos too, my phone was doing okay, but his would keep shutting down when we'd set it up to film because it would just become overheated and it would give him a warning and
phone
stuff.
is too hot.
So,
Stopping recording.
yeah.
Phone needs to cool down. And constant warnings and stuff like that. So we haven't really achieved as much as we would have liked. Obviously, I mean, we want to be 10 times ahead of where we are.
Yeah.
But that's okay. Again, I mean, I think the thing that for us is we are going at our own pace. As slow as it may feel to us sometimes, or maybe to you, the viewer. But we're doing this at a speed that we're comfortable at, and we're not trying to kill ourselves. There's no point in killing ourselves to get everything done when it's this hot. So, I mean, obviously the last few days anyway, we've done a lot less.
I think maybe if we sort of backtrack to where we were just before,
before
the
the
heat wave kind of kicked in, and I mean it was already pretty hot.
Yeah.
To begin with, it's not like we jumped from sort of sub-zero temperatures up to suddenly this. It was hovering around 27, 28 for us.
And that's still doable.
It is, but it does delay us still because I mean, and we already sort of knew we were going to have to do a bit of work, take a break, do a bit of work, take a break, etc. And we were doing that sort of earlier on, beginning of this weekend throughout last week.
Yeah.
And we did make some decent progress.
Yeah, so I mean, when we ended the last video, you guys saw where we got to. And then, there's a little bit of more that we've done, and I'll just overlay that over us speaking now. So, I mean, we did sort of progress, and we are progressing along that trail. What's actually kind of nice is at the end of that clip, the trees and the stuff growth that you see at the end of where we're working is not very deep to go before it actually opens up a lot.
Yeah.
So we're kind of excited to be able to get back into that hopefully this coming week because temperatures are supposed to drop.
Yeah.
Other things that we did plant a couple of the plants, which have dwindled in number from our original plantings, which is quite depressing for me anyway. I'm sure they are for you too. But we have planted some of the peppers and things like that in that little garden that we originally had, but we sort of cleared it out again, and we'll show you a little bit of us watering that just a short while before we're filming this. So,
and actually the garden was sort of the segue between us doing some clearing and then the heat kind of taking over because we had managed with the clearing for a bit with regard to the temperature and that sort of thing, and then it started getting quite a bit hotter, so we decided, well, we'll go in and we'll work on getting the garden going.
Yeah.
And then even that which was relatively low impact compared to the clearing, because I mean,
sure.
the clearing is
For
like
sure.
hauling out dead trees and recently cut
Yeah.
trees and all that sort of thing. And the garden was just kind of a lot more, raking, planting, whatever. But the last day when we sort of gave up for the heat, we had only been in there, I think, about a half an hour, and we
was
decided that it was
crazy.
absolutely unbearable to do it. And again, it's the humidity too. It's
Yeah.
not just the heat, but
And I mean, like, there is shade in there. Like,
Yeah.
the thing is also you have to realize that the camper, where the camper is, there's no shade on it, right?
No.
So the camper is like really exposed to the sun, and so you go in and there is shade in there, but you're just standing, even if you're standing in the shade, and within like 5 minutes, there's sweat like just pouring. Like
yeah, I mean,
I'm
my sunglasses, I'd bend down and they would just basically pool in
with
there.
sweat.
Like, it
Yeah,
was
it's just kind of gross.
yeah.
It's kind of gross. And like, yeah, you can't. And like, my biggest problem is trying to walk because like I've got the sweat going in my eyes and I can't see anything. And I already, as I said before in a previous video, I already look like a drunk guy because I'm tripping over everything. And like now it's worse because I can't see either. And then you sort of get back to the camper, and it might be, like yesterday was 32 out there when we went to water the plants. And then we got back here, and inside the camper was 34.
Yeah.
And so I mean, so we're very fortunate that the camper has AC, and that is great to have.
What is unfortunate with the AC though is that, I mean, so the heat that we were dealing with in the winter, that it won't go forever, but it can run off of the solar system
Yeah.
that we have attached here. The air conditioning does not. It takes too much power up. So
Yeah.
that we actually have to keep running the generator for. And it was kind of parallel to the heating in the winter though, because I mean, it burns through gas when you've got the air conditioning running. We're not too bad. I mean, we balance it out pretty nicely, but when we're not running the air conditioning as much, but I mean, it was just eating up the gas, and that eats up some of our limited and balanced out finances,
Very quickly,
which
very
was
quickly.
Disappointing. Because
And I mean, and here's the thing, right? So, I mean, we've been very fortunate that at night, anyway, it seems to cool down quite a lot. So that's been kind of nice later in the evening.
to a degree,
To a
there
degree.
were some of those the hottest days. It really didn't too much. We opened up the windows and everything. We didn't run the generator through the night or that. So that in that regard,
Yeah.
we don't have to keep it running throughout the night. But it's still not incredibly comfortable in there.
No.
So there's no breeze.
There's no breeze, and that's the thing. There's not
There
a
is
lot
today.
There is today out here, but I mean, even then, that breeze, even with all the windows open, doesn't actually flow through the camper.
Yeah.
It's very close, and I'm like, yesterday, it was 30 degrees inside the camper at 8 o'clock in the morning. Like, it was just brutal, and yesterday seemed to be the peak of this sort of heat wave. But we're now expecting that after today, which is, they're saying
High is
28.
28.
And tomorrow is high is only supposed to be 22. So we are looking at quite a considerable cool down.
Yeah.
It would actually be nice to get some more rain, because I think we really need that. We need to collect more rainwater. And part of the process of going in and watering these plants is that we have to go back down to the river and collect water, and then we have to lug it in there with a wheelbarrow because it's heavy, and then water our plants and things like that. So it's a lot of work to do that.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I mean, it's free water. I'm not going to complain about that. But it is, it's labor intensive, and it's a lot of work. It's heavy lifting. And we're trying to balance out the things we do in a day. So, I mean, on these very, very hot days, we've done limited stuff.
Well, and we kind of made an active decision that we knew the heat was coming. It wasn't a surprise to us. And especially after that sort of day when we were in the garden working, we kind of just decided that we were going to take it pretty easy we didn't mind the idea of taking it easy for the couple of days that it was really, really sweltering, and are basically just going to start going all in and whatever next week, because we know that it's way more manageable. So
It's
Yeah,
way
so-
easier to keep working when you're not drenched within the first 5 minutes. You know, it's
And I mean, it's, you know, we were taking out stuff with us. It's not like we, again, didn't try to prepare for it.
Yeah.
We had water, obviously. We had the, I don't know what you call them, but the
Cooling-
little
cooling
rags or
rags, yeah.
whatever. And those were fine, but when your entire body is just sweltering,
Yeah.
it only goes so far. But yeah, this week we should be looking at getting a ton more cleared because
Yeah.
and that sort of thing. So it's, yeah, we're looking at much happier for
happier
me anyway,
temperatures. Absolutely. Well, I keep saying like I'm old and I'm fat and like this, I don't do well in this, but yeah, you know, like the extreme temperatures make it very hard to work.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I am very much looking forward to being able to get back and do things at a pace.
Me too.
And that's going to be really good for us, I think. So we are out on the property, and we'll talk more about this in the rest of this video, but we wanted to kind of show you what we have been doing a little bit. Now, if you guys recall, right at the very beginning when we were clearing on the property, we were clearing like the road, the pathway in. So I'm going to show you kind of like from where we started and what it kind of looks like now, which is actually behind us here. So like you can see there's a lot of growth. Like there's been a lot of growth. Rain and sunshine and things like that obviously are making a lot of the stuff grow. What is nice to see though is that most of it's grass.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of plants in there, but I mean like the majority of them are just grass. And so that's relatively easy to deal with in the long term. But yeah, it's still going to be more work, which is a bit frustrating. But I'll see if I can switch this around. I can't switch it around, so I'll just do it around. We have been working on our little outdoor garden, and as you can see, we don't have a lot of stuff in here right now. We are going to be clearing more space. We ran out of space ready for what we wanted to put in here, so this is all just peppers and a couple of squashes, but we do have a bunch of other stuff that's still got to get planted, so we'll get to that in a new space that we're going to clear. But we also have a little bit of bad news. So as you may recall, a while back, we haven't talked about this for quite a while, and no one's really asked about it, so we haven't kind of known how to broach the subject.
Well, and I think we were just kind of disappointed about it too.
Yeah, one of those
Not
sort of
the end of
setbacks.
the world, but
Our greenhouse got kind of totally destroyed. Like destroyed. A lot of the poles actually got broken, like by the wind.
yeah.
And we've been focused so much on clearing that we haven't really bothered. It was so hot in there anyway. And with the heat and stuff that we've been experiencing, it was just easier to not deal with it and not move it for now. We will move it. We will try and see what we can salvage from it.
We can probably, I mean, the actual sort of, I guess I'll call it a tarp, the covering for it, that wasn't really damaged too much
No.
or anything. It does not like it tore or anything like that particularly. So, I mean, we can probably use that
For sure.
to actually make something out of it. But the frame itself is just bent beyond all reason. And I mean, that was through several windstorms. It was
Yeah.
like we tied it down the first time. I think we did a video showing when it was damaged
Tied down.
or when it got sort of blown over that first time. We came back, tied it down better, we thought.
Way better, because we actually did what they recommended, which was to bury the flap all the way
No, we
around.
did it a second time before we
Okay,
got
yes,
there.
okay.
So in the second time, actually the second time I think was when we put rocks around and that sort
Yeah.
of thing to kind of hold it down. And that got blown over again. And then we came back and we did the burying the sides, and I think it was actually still tied down again
Yeah.
to that time.
And
we
it actually
just
did
had,
quite well. Like we came back after one windstorm, but then we had like a major windstorm.
Yeah.
And that's sort of where it ended up.
Yeah. So,
And unfortunately, yeah, I mean, a lot of the metal poles got damaged. So
yeah, and I mean we're just talking like not just sort of detached from each other, but bent all together.
Bent or broken, like even some
Yeah.
of the ones where they sort of slide into each other
Yeah.
got broken. So that's a bit disappointing. Yeah.
But then that's why we've moved on to doing just the basic garden out here, and we were going to do an outdoors garden as well.
Yeah.
So I mean that's not out of left field or
No.
anything, but we just wanted to have that sort of balance of both of them, depending on which plants and that sort of thing. But like I say, I mean we will ultimately get that greenhouse back up. It may end up being a next year kind of thing. We may just end up packing up the covering for it and packing it away so that it doesn't get damaged at some point. But yeah, for this year, I don't think we're going to be doing that greenhouse anyway. We're just going to kind of stick to this garden here.
One of the other things that we have done in the last week is we've picked a lot of raspberries.
Yes.
You've picked a lot of raspberries. I've eaten a few. You went to pick quite a few, and
Twice we did sort of an actual. I mean, we pretty much, when we're walking around and that sort of thing, we're always kind of grabbing at them because they grow everywhere out here, which is really nice. So we're always kind of picking at them anyway. But twice we went and sort of did an actual picking of them, and the first time we got about a cup's worth. The second time we got 2 cups worth, and the first time we were actually just across here. The road is out this way, so the growth is only so. That first one, when we got a cup, we started off there. We kind of moved in towards the property, got a few from in there, and we were kind of scattered around. But the second time, we kind of found a good deposit of
good
them,
patch of them,
and really just kind of picked from that one spot, which was really nice.
and you made.
I made a raspberry syrup,
Which was great because you put like a little bit of this raspberry syrup in a glass of cold water, and now you have this really refreshing raspberry drink. So, very simple.
And it was quite a simple syrup to make.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just sugar, water, and raspberries basically, and you just kind of have to mash them down and strain it. But yeah, it was really nice. And like I said, just to give an idea too about, and it kind of goes back to part of why we're doing this anyway. Prior to our move out here, I'm always into doing the drinks and stuff. You'll go way back in our videos, there's the cream soda one or whatever. But I mean, my big thing is I want to be able to be doing a lot more kind of like fruit syrups and stuff from fruit that we've actually grown here. And I was saying to him that I did a cherry syrup in Calgary before we moved once, and it was cherries that we had bought at the grocery store, and really you couldn't taste a whole lot of cherry in there when all was said and done. And I mean, they were fresh. Well, they had been sitting for a little bit, but they were fresh cherries. But they just, honestly, it just tasted kind of like sugar to me, and it was kind of pinkish in color. Whereas this one, where we've got the fresh raspberries that are growing wild here and naturally, I mean, it was really, really raspberry-ish. Like you could taste
and I will say
it really strongly, so that was really nice.
These raspberries do have like a lot of flavor, and it's the same as the strawberries. They're really tasty. The problem with the strawberries, are not as plentiful.
No, they were just really, we just saw them that one time, and
1 or 2 days, and then they were gone, which is very disappointing because they were absolutely out of this world.
Yeah, they were really good.
And one thing we're supposed to be seeing a ton of, and we're not seeing, is blueberries. And it's interesting because a lot of that has got to do with a couple of things people are saying. One is the late frost, but 2 is the caterpillars. So you remember the whole caterpillar saga. And so, a lot of these plants are not fruiting.
I'd say why. Well, what the caterpillars did.
Yeah, so I mean, the caterpillars pretty much like decimate all the leaves on these trees. And it appears, and it could just be where we are specifically. But I mean, we covered quite a lot of terrain going in and out of the property. But I mean, like, I'm not seeing, even on 1 or 2 of the trees that I identified as blueberry trees, high bush blueberries, there's nothing.
No.
There's absolutely nothing on them.
There's
leaves now. But there's no fruit.
But we follow the local town group on Facebook, and there had been discussion in there of people who usually go out sort of foraging for their blueberries this year just couldn't find any, and the biggest general consensus seemed to be the frost and the caterpillars had done so. But again, like I think we had said already, the caterpillars are not an every year thing.
Fortunately,
so
yes.
Ideally, next year or the year after, there will be
A plethora.
a lot of blueberries around. Too.
I hope so, because
I hope
I
so,
really
too.
like blueberries. So, but yeah. So that's pretty much our update. I think that's everything covered. That we've been up to.
We're not really going to talk about it this time, but we are getting close to sort of planning out trees for this cabin.
Yes.
We'll do that in the next video or whatever.
Yeah, we'll talk a bit about that, and we'll show you what we're thinking, and we'll also sort of give you an update on, like, what our plans originally were, what they are now, how we're moving forward. Again, guys, thank you for following along, and if you enjoyed this video or any of our videos, please remember to hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, turn on notifications, all that good stuff. But it really does help us if you comment on the video or ask questions on the video below, because that actually helps show engagement to YouTube, and they suggest our video to more people. So we would really appreciate that. If you'd like to help support us, a really good way, we appreciate every donation via PayPal. They really do help, especially as our supplies dwindle when we're using them too much. We really would appreciate that. So our PayPal link is down in the description of this video. But of course, the best way to help is to actually sign up for our Patreon. And on Patreon, you can get exclusive content that you won't see on YouTube or on any of our other social media. It is only there. And if you sign up for a paid level, there are various benefits to that as well. But that's a really good way to help support us on a monthly basis, from as little as $10 a month. So we would really appreciate it if you check out Patreon, and that link is also down in the video description. So I think that from who's been a very good boy, Remy, who's now come to say hi, and us on this rather warm day, we are going to now start getting dinner and things like that ready, because it's getting to that time of day.
And cool down again.
Cool down a bit, and we will catch you guys on the next video. So until the next video, guys. Where's your stick? Where's your stick?